The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily represent those of this station or its management.
It's time now for Where You Live with Gene Sullivan, the show that deals with the news and events that affect you the most. Whether you rent or own, live in an HOA, single-family home, or an apartment building, Gene will tackle the issues right where you live. So, from the True North Painting Studios, here's the original man of steel, Resolve himself, who stands for truth, justice, and the association way. Here's Gene Sullivan.
Welcome, everyone, to Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan, and I'm broadcasting from the True North Painting Studios. When you're looking for the right painting contractor, what do you look for? Isn't it someone who will respect you, your time, your property, and your budget? That's what you can expect from True North Painting. Find out more about this exceptional company by going online at truenorthpainting.com. That's trunorthpainting.com, or give them a call at 952-831-1433. I'm also brought to you by the great folks at Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. We've got a lot of news, a lot of stories to cover on today's show. So let's begin without further ado with property management in the news. Property Management in the News is brought to you by Home Furniture and Abbey Floor Coverings. Their showrooms are staffed with professionals who will help you choose what you need to fit both your lifestyle and budget. Whatever you need, chances are they'll have what you're looking for. Now, if you wish to avail yourself of special pricing you won't find anywhere else, all Where You Live listeners can call Customer Service Coordinator Lori Matson at 952-224-2663. Our first topic that we're going to deal with on today's show comes out of the great state of Florida. And as you know, listeners, as I search each and every week for topics to discuss on this radio show, I have also had, over the years, had privilege of reading a lot of very interesting and great, well-written articles. And one is that I wanted to choose today is from someone who I have certainly appreciated their writing. They've been very, very prolific in writing about homeowner association issues in Florida. I want to welcome as a guest to Where You Live today, attorney Donna DiMaggio Berger. She practices community association law. She's a shareholder in the firm of Becker Poliakoff, and want to say welcome to the show, Donna.
Oh, thank you so much, Gene. Happy to be here.
And you have written, like I said, an awful lot of articles. You contribute regularly to the Sun Sentinel, isn't that correct?
Yes, in Florida. A couple different media outlets. We have a big readership for condo and HOA topics down here.
And have you always, is your specialization always been in community association law?
I think other than a 2-month period outside of law school immediately after, yes. Been doing it for a while.
How did you pick community association law?
You know, that's a great question, and it really kind of picked me. I had been clerking in law school and doing real estate and banking and a little bit of probate, and then I graduated, and then I had my first child, my son Ryan, and I didn't want to keep commuting to downtown Miami, and Becker and Poliakoff was a well-known community association law firm, and a firm that knew about me and knew they had a flex time program, sent over my resume, and they contacted me and said, and, you know, we've got a flex time program. Would you consider becoming a community association lawyer? And I said, sure, I'll read the statute. How hard could it be? Famous last words.
Famous last words. I've got to say, you know, when I take a look at everything that's going on around the country, things seem to be happening at a much faster pace with laws each and every year dealing with homeowner associations in your state. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Oh, I think it's not only fair, it's completely accurate. We are right in the middle of our 60-day legislative session right now in Florida. It's going to end on May 2nd, and we've been monitoring 2 or 3 dozen bills that have the ability to impact people living in community associations, and we've got about 60 to 70,000 of them throughout the state.
Yeah.
And we are just guaranteed, Gene, to have that kind of legislative activity in the community association arena every year because we have a condominium ombudsman, we have a division. Associations here are regulated by the state. We have living councils, so we have all these kind of entities that their sole function is to suggest legislative proposals related to people living in these communities.
Yeah. Now, one that I wanted to talk to you today and address for our listeners here on our show, I thought this was very interesting. You wrote, I think this might have been in a blog with your firm, and you're dealing with homeowner associations and what is considered a material alteration. And you said that a number of people, even living in Florida in an HOA, may be surprised at some of the answers of what might be considered a material alteration. And the state statute says that, 75% of all homeowners need to agree to this material alteration before it takes place. Is that correct?
Sure, unless the governing documents provide for a lower threshold, which many of them do, but I tried to keep it lighthearted, Gene. I actually did a quiz and said, which of the following do you think constitute a material alteration? And, all of the above, none of the above, or this or that, and it really is surprising what you think. I started out by saying I had 2 clients in the previous week that were outlining these voluminous renovation projects. I said, what are you doing? Oh, we're changing the paint, we're changing the carpeting. I said, that's a material alteration. Is it? Yes, it is. Something as simple as removing a tree, but it could be a very significant tree in the common area, and if you remove it, that's a material alteration.
Yes.
Now, change the paint color.
Now, when I took the quiz myself when I was reading this, one of the things that got my attention, it says, changing a shuffleboard court in the common area to an outside seating area could be considered a material alteration.
Yeah, not only could be, would be in Florida. Our case law defines it, a material alteration or substantial addition is anything that palpably or materially changes the look or the function of a component. And obviously, if you're going from a shuffleboard court to open seating, you are changing the function of that component. And, the old saying is, well, maybe somebody, maybe Mrs. Smith bought in the building specifically for the shuffleboard court. She should at least have a vote if they're taking it away. Even if she winds up being on the losing end of that vote, at least she'll have a say.
Wow, when I read that, I thought it's really true. Shuffleboard is a big deal in Florida. I thought, what?
So pickleball. Pickleball's the new thing down here.
I thought, what kind of contingency was storming the state capitol with T-shirts that said, "You can remove this shuffleboard when you remove this tang and pry it from my cold dead hands." Pretty serious stuff there.
Yeah, that's a serious graphic. But I will tell you, I live in a Florida homeowners association, and it's much different. That's document driven, and in our association, the board does have leeway to make those changes. So, a few years back, I'm driving into my community, and there all of a sudden there's a flag in the front, and they have, the board decided, and I loved it, but they decided to put a flagpole, and the members did not have input. So in Florida homeowners associations, it's a much different process than in the condominiums.
Now let me ask you, because when you wrote this, you talked about in a Florida condominium, and I know things can be very specific, and generally speaking, there seems to be more prohibitions for a condominium association as opposed to a townhome association. Does this apply to all HOAs or just condos?
Well, in Florida, the homeowners associations are not yet regulated, Gene, by the state. They are in very limited, to a very limited extent with regard to elections and recalls, and that's only been recently. It's always been the reality down here that homeowners associations were given a lot more leeway. If you had a person living in a homeowners association who took objection to what the board was doing, their only recourse was really to go to court, and to a great extent that remains the case today. For Florida condominiums and cooperatives, they can file a complaint at practically no charge. If it's a violation, it's no charge. If they want to go to arbitration, it's minimal with the state. So that's why you do have a disconnect. But I will tell you, in terms of legislation, that's moving closer and closer, and there's a huge push in Florida to regulate homeowners associations.
Yeah. Now, this particular statute that you're talking about, is that something that is a proposal for the legislature this year, for this session, or is this already in place?
Well, in Florida, we have separate statutes for the condos, cooperatives, and homeowners associations. But last year was the big year to try to push for HOA regulation. There's nothing pending this year. Last year was registering them and trying to find out how many we have in Florida in terms of homeowners associations. I suspect next year or the year after, there's going to be a full-fledged push to say, let's start regulating them the way we regulate condos. And, of course, there's going to be a per-home fee for that.
Sure. Well, we need to take a break right now, but Donna, you can stay with us for another segment, can't you?
Oh, I sure can.
Great. Folks, we're talking to attorney Donna DiMaggio-Berger about the state of Florida and this issue of a material alteration. Would you like to see that in Minnesota, those living in HOAs? We'll talk to Donna more about this after these messages.